Another mistake that a lot of creators make, especially as you're getting bigger and gaining more leverage, is not getting creative with the way that they are paying you. Deals that we have signed, we have gotten equity in not one, but two different companies we've worked with. We've gotten paid in straight cash, percentages of what the customer spends on their website, bonuses tied in. There have been deals with travel budget tied in. We've done a combination of all of the above. Anything you could really think of, it's all possible. I promise you, because I've done it. As someone who's been running a sports media content brand for close to a decade now, I have signed 7 figures worth of deals in sponsorships, and I've made a bazillion mistakes along the way. But I want to point out 7 mistakes that 99% of newer creators and even veteran creators that have done deals before still make to this day. It's going to save you time, energy, more importantly, money. So we're going to start right at the top, and that is signing deals before you are ready to sign deals. As a ballpark number, I would suggest making content for a minimum 12 months, usually between 12 and 24 months before you even think about actively and consistently monetizing within your content. And this is something I've become more and more sure about the longer that I've been in the media space. Advertising in your videos has a very clear detrimental impact on the content itself, because that's not valuable to anybody. Retention rates drop off dramatically, especially with new people coming to your channel, seeing you advertise, they don't care. But more importantly, like, you as a creator, when you're starting out, there's so many variables. Like, you don't really know video editing well, how to be on camera well, you don't know how to portray your communication well. There's so many different things that you're trying to figure out while you're starting. Adding monetization, adding advertising in is another variable that you're throwing into an equation that you're not even close to solving yet. When you are beginning as a creator, you don't understand your value prop yet. You don't understand your content well enough. You don't understand your audience well enough. What works, what doesn't work, what you even like doing. You should strictly focus on making your content great. Figuring out a system, a process, a flow, your communication style. You have to have a long-term mindset when it comes to building a foundation through content. And the longer you could push off monetizing, I swear, the longer, it's crazy to say this, the easiest way to make money long-term in content creation is by not trying to make money. So you're in this with a long-term mindset. That's how you should be thinking about it. When I think back to when I started building the main fantasy channel at first, I did not sell a single thing on that channel for 3 to 4 years. And that wasn't some savvy long-term business move. That was just because I was young. I didn't know that I could sell anything. I wasn't working with any partners. But I look back and I feel like really, really fortunate that that was the way that content went. And now I've taken that mindset with all the channels that we've built up underneath BDGE, right? We have the trivia channel, which we don't really monetize on. We are now looking to focus on monetizing. We are over 50,000 subs on there. We started that last June. So we are coming on 15, 16, 17 months of that being a channel, building up a really loyal, dedicated audience before we even thought about really monetizing there. This is the type of mindset I suggest any creator has. And if you're itching, if you're dying to monetize that early, then you're probably in it for the wrong reason to begin with. Mistake number 2 is accepting product for advertising. So a company reaches out to you and says, hey, we love your content. If we send you one of our products, will you do a video showcasing it? Will you do a 90-second read for our company? Will you make a video around our product? And at first, if you've never been reached out to before, you're probably getting these emails because you're a smaller creator. And a lot of these agencies or companies that do the influencer marketing stuff find the smaller creators they think have no experience working with advertisers, and they try to leech onto them. All right. So they say, oh, we'll send you this product that looks real fancy and shiny. Look, you're getting free stuff. You can show your friends you got free stuff in exchange for you making an entire video around it. Now, that's point number 1. You should almost never, ever, ever, ever make a full video around a specific product unless you have to be like a review creator. If you're a tech reviewer and Apple wants to send you a laptop, cool. Like, unless this is a $2,000, $3,000 product and you're not a channel with 50, 75, a 6-figure following, you should not be accepting a $50 product. For the most part, with a lot of these products, it costs this company like $11 to make whatever they're sending, maybe even less than that. Like, would you be accepting an $11 deal from a company? No, you wouldn't. Here's the overall point of this. You're all not worth, as a content creator, you're not always worth more money than that. I'm not saying that you should not accept that deal because you're worth so much more and the company should pay you more. A lot of you aren't. That's just the hard truth about it. But my point is, if you are actually worth less than that, then you shouldn't be advertising your content in the first place, because you should be building up your content to be in a place where you are worth a lot more than that. So it's one, most companies try to take advantage of you by sending you free product for free advertising, which you should be paid more if you have a good following. But 2, if you don't have a good following and you think you're worth more than that, then you're also probably not. You should just focus on content. Number 3 on this list, and this might be one of the most important ones on here, and it is not actively reaching out to brands that you want to work with. I know it could be confusing because you're not really sure how the sponsorship or brand deal industry works, and you just assume, you get big enough, they will reach out to you. They've got this whole organization behind them that does their affiliate deals. I got news for you. Most of these companies and these agencies and these marketing departments are just as fucking confused and not sure what's going on and disorganized as you are in your head, all right? So not reaching out to companies that you want to work with is a huge missed opportunity. The single most fruitful partnership that our company has to this day is right here with Underdog Fantasy. It started before they were even Underdog Fantasy. They were a company called Play Draft. This was probably 5-6 years ago at this point. I will throw the DM up on the screen of me initially reaching out to their marketing department. And by marketing department, I simply just mean Gamby over there, who I've developed a very close personal relationship with. But I reached out to him, telling him how much I love their product, and I would love to just link up and connect and see if something happens from there. We've also gotten other deals where if it's such a part of our brand, or if it's such a part of your content, or if it's a product that you absolutely love, that passion can be portrayed in a DM, in an email, in a message to whoever, right? We had a deal with Blue Chew earlier this year. It literally stemmed from like an inside joke, as you can imagine, when we have a bunch of 21, 22-year-olds, and they were like, we should reach out to one of the reps and see if we can get a deal. Next thing you know, JMO reaches out to one of the reps on LinkedIn, I think, or maybe via email, and we have a sponsorship deal in place. But not reaching out to brands that you want to work with, it's like being on a dating app, but you don't swipe on anything. You only wait for inbound. It's like being on Instagram and only going out with people that DM you first. Just because they didn't reach out to you first does not mean they don't want to work with you. There are a billion creators out there. When you're thinking of them, you're like, oh, this is one big company. When they are looking at the internet landscape, to them, there's 5 bajillion creators. You got to be the one that stands out. A lot of the time, you could just go on LinkedIn, search the company name, see people that work there, find people in the marketing department, advertising department, paid traffic department, like those types of departments, reach out to them. You could find them on Twitter also by searching the company name. People that have the brand Twitter in their bio probably work for that company. And then the hard part, you have to pitch them cold. You have to really show them why you want to work with them. You should only be reaching out to companies if you genuinely love the company, love the brand, love the product. Otherwise, your pitch is going to come off stale and you're never going to get that deal done. Tell them why you love the product. Tell them a personal story about you using it or your company using it, or the inside jokes you are using within your office about the company. Show them a piece of content that you're already using the product or service in. That is how the relationship with Underdog started. That is how the Blue Chew deal started. We sent them a clip of the vlog that we were joking about it, and we're like, look how seamlessly this fits in. They love you doing the work already for them, right? It's a show them, don't tell them type of mentality. And if you can't do that, then guess what? You either got more work to do or you just shouldn't be reaching out to them. Now, mistake number 4 is not doing proper due diligence on the contract, right? You've reached out, you've secured the deal, you've agreed to the overarching terms, and then you receive the contract, and then you need to read it over. Now, I think if you watch any of these types of videos, like you went on YouTube and searched like, how do I secure a brand deal or whatever, almost every single one of them will tell you, have a lawyer look over these things. I'm not going to point you down that direction. I don't think you need to have a lawyer look at them when they are low stakes. If they're a low amount of money, right? If you're doing sub 5 figures, if the deal's not $10, $25, $50,000, I think you could skate by without having to pay a lawyer a fee. Maybe you got a family member, maybe you got a friend that will look it over for you for free. But if you don't, it's going to end up costing you like 30% of whatever the deal probably was. If you get $1,000 sponsorship deal and you got to pay the lawyer $200 for 2 hours at a time, like, I don't think it's worth it, to be honest with you. That is not financial advice. It's just really good advice. And obviously contracts are, I remember getting them when I was younger. The first few I got were extremely intimidating. They are scary. You're like, oh my God, if I don't read all the fine print, I'm going to go to jail. It's just never, I promise you, it's just not that serious. For the most part, when you are reading a contract and something feels weird, your common sense will guide you very, very far when it comes to looking over contracts. You are allowed to push back on contracts. You are allowed to say, I don't like this clause. This is what the hell? You're allowed to have conversations with people that are making the contract, right? At the end of the day, a human has to make the contract, so you can have negotiations about the contract. But I want to get into more precise things that you should not overlook within the contract itself. And I'm going to bring up a contract that we signed extremely recently, a legitimate contract we had signed, and then I kind of looked back afterwards and was like, fuck, I forgot to think about this when we signed it. It wasn't necessarily a big deal because it was a lower revenue type of contract. This was a bigger sponsorship deal. Then I probably would have had a pair of eyes or lawyers look over it before I sign something to catch something like this. Now, one thing that always catches my eye, you will see this is very standard. They will have some sort of approval. Advertiser will be allowed one concise round of edits, notes per video, etc., etc. And again, that's standard. Like, they're paying you to advertise them. They want to be able to see the content that you're going to put out promoting them. And normally I think that is perfectly fine. However, we are in the sports industry, in the football industry, and any sports industry, I guess you could say, it's extremely time sensitive. A lot of the videos that I make, if I'm making 5 or 6 YouTube videos per week, a lot of the times I'm making a video, I'm filming it Tuesday at 11 a.m. It's going live Tuesday at 1 p.m., right? Like 2 hours later. I am filming it, getting the SD card over to Tony. He's editing it and uploading it. So to have that needed to be edited, then sent over, waiting for a company to watch it, give approval. Who knows what they're doing? They might have meetings all day. They might not get back to you until 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. the next day. That becomes an issue. So that is something that I would clarify with them first. 99% of the time, you will be able to hit them back and say like, hey, we're really time sensitive. Do you really need to see approval for this? And a lot of times like, nah, we're familiar with the content. You're good to go. And you can kind of just tell them like, hey, I won't put anything like crazy. There won't be any outlandish like cursing, whatever you need to do to kind of get that past them. Sometimes in this contract, we actually did have to send it to them, which was kind of annoying, but they were quick with it. But just make sure you communicate that upfront. If you are time sensitive, let them know that that could be an issue if they take too long. Next up, something that was in this contract that is not usually in contracts. You'll see a lot of advertisers say like, if you are advertising, let's say like an energy drink, they'll put in the contract saying, hey, we're the only energy drink that you could advertise in this video. That makes a ton of sense. Like, I'm not going to go advertise C4 and then go advertise Red Bull and then go advertise Monster in the same video. It's insane. This contract, advertiser to be the only sponsor of the video. There will be no other product, services, or brand mentioned, featured, or prominently displayed in the video. That can become a little bit difficult. You have to think about the opportunity cost sometimes, especially if you are a longer form producer, if you are someone that produces 60-minute podcasts, if you're successful already and you're working with multiple brands, you might have anywhere from 1 to 3 ad plugs throughout it. So if this company is only allowing you to do 1, that's going to eat up 2 other spots. Those 2 other spots are going to be probably more money than just this one by itself. So that alone might not be worth it. We do shortish form content for YouTube, right? Like most of my videos are anywhere from 12 to 25 minutes. So for the most part, I'm doing 1, maybe 2 advertisements. But in a video like that, now I'm kind of foregoing the chance to advertise a company like Underdog, where if I do a good plug, I might get, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 signups on Underdog, which on the back end will make me more money than doing a plug like this. So not being allowed to advertise multiple could be a problem for you. So I would just look out for that. Another thing to keep an eye on is the termination of the contract. Someone asked on our Discord today, which you can join free down below, can a company just end the contract anytime if you're not performing? Now, these are always on a case-by-case basis. Most of the time, especially bigger types of contracts, they're not allowed to just terminate the contract out of nowhere, especially not performance-based. You can only terminate the contract if there's a breach in agreement, meaning that like we did something that slandered their name, or we advertised with one of their partners, they didn't pay us within 90 days or something. If there's a breach in the actual agreement, then we can send 21 days written notice saying that you breached the agreement. We are ending the agreement. So the higher the stakes, the more money that a contract typically is, the more boundaries and loopholes you got to jump through in order for the termination to happen. And the last thing I would look out for is exclusive rights to the content. Sometimes they'll put something in the contract where it's like, if you make a piece of content where you're advertising them in it, they have the right to take that and put that wherever they want. Now, a lot of creators will negotiate that for an extra fee on top. That's probably not something that you need to be worried about as a smaller creator, because these are bigger brands that want to go post it on their Instagram, post it on their TikTok, whatever the case may be, but just something to keep in mind. Leads us to mistake number 5, which is similar. It's not doing due diligence, not on the contract, but the company or the product itself. Doing deals with advertisers, companies that don't align with your content or just like who you are as a person. I'm not talking about like, make sure that you verify that the product that they're sending you is not made from like a sweatshop out in China. Like, enough. I just mean taking on products or services just because they're willing to send you money that have nothing to do with your content or your brand. You're not familiar with the product, or it's actually just like a bad product, website, service, whatever. Like, if you're going to sit there and vouch for a product, vouch for something that you're telling your audience is going to be valuable to them, and then it's not, and it's actually a bad product or a bad company or whatever the case may be, they're never going to buy from you ever again. If you work with very few companies, you can build up a loyalty if the companies you're working with have great products. Because every time that you come out then, right, you work with a select few companies, you advertise with them, you crush it, you tell your audience about it, they love it. Guess what? The next thing that you advertise, they're going to trust you because of that. For a long time, I would not advertise any products, services, software that I did not personally use. I worked with Underdog. I worked with Felix Gray because I wore those. I reached out to them to set up a deal. With Manscaped, these are all products that I use in my day-to-day life. And the biggest reason for that is so when you are selling the product in your content, you're not actually selling it because you're actually already passionate about it. Like, I'm naturally passionate about the product, and that comes off. I would also suggest, you can get on a call with the company just to make sure that you're on the same page with the reps, ask them what their goals, what their campaigns are for the sponsorship. That will go a long way with them. And maybe they say something that you weren't really expecting. You have to know what you're looking to do. A lot of them will just be like, we want signups, we want people to buy our product. Cool. Go about it however you want to. Sometimes they have like some special or some promo going on that they specifically want to feature. Which leads me to mistake number 6. And we might actually have like 9 in here. But working with too many companies, it is easy to start going around and, hoeing yourself out to 10 different companies that all want to pay you money. It is so much more fruitful to build really good relationships with 1, 2, or 3 brands that really want to invest into you, really want to believe in you, and that you can advertise the shit out of. They almost become part of your brand. Like with Underdog Fantasy, kill it for them, and they help us out enormously financially because they've become such a part of our brand. People associate us with them. Those are the types of partnerships you're looking for. They don't happen overnight. They happen with you connecting with the person at the company. They happen with you building relationships and you understanding their product inside and out and selling that to your audience. So working with too many, it becomes distracting. Peace of mind if you're working with 10 different companies at a time, like having to keep a schedule of when to advertise this, when to advertise that, all this kind of stuff. Once you build a really good relationship, a long-lasting one, most of the time they're just like, we trust you as a creator, just go bring us results. We're not going to stay on top of you, making sure that you tweeted out 8 times this week instead of 10 times. This ad read was 47 seconds instead of 60 seconds. Like, they're not going to do that shit. But with companies that just look at you as a number, they are going to do that. Speaking of number, another mistake is not simply asking for more money upfront. It's okay to start high with your offer. It's okay to not accept low offers. It's okay to have high standards for your content. Not every piece of content needs to be sponsored. If someone does not hit the number that you want, if they're a product that you're not sure about and they don't come over the top to make sure that you want to close that deal, cool. You don't got to go on a date with every girl that looks at you. You could shoot high because then they're going to come back lower and then you can settle somewhere in the middle. Don't be emotional during the negotiation. This is something that I'm bad with. A lot of times I get connected with the reps and I become friends with them and then I'm like, I don't want to overcharge. I want to have a good relationship. And I sometimes get scared to ask for more money. But don't be scared to ask for more money. You're not being an asshole. You're simply doing your job in the same exact way that they are doing their job. What you should be looking to charge for YouTube videos, for high quality YouTube videos, is somewhere in the 25 to 50 CPM range. And CPM means cost per 1,000 impressions. If we have a $25 CPM and your video gets 10,000 views, 10 times 25, $250 for a 10,000 view video at a $25 CPM. That will be lower for some niches. That will be lower for companies that have lower budgets. That will be lower for podcasting versus video. That is a very, very bare bones price of what you should be looking for. If you're making high quality videos, you should definitely start to flirt with the upper range of that number, 35, 40, 45, 50 type of stuff. And not every company is going to say okay to that. And again, that is okay. You can pass up on money. But what you should know is that these agencies, just like you, have a job. They want to spend money, okay? Now, let me explain these influencer agencies to you. Basically, you have an agency that has relationships with all of these companies, right? Let's just say, for example, all the companies that I've mentioned so far throughout this video, whether it's Felix Gray, Manscaped, all the ones you've heard on podcasts before, BetterHelp, etc. These agencies will have contracts set up with all of these companies. And a company like BetterHelp might come to an agency and say, we are running a campaign for Q1 of this year. Our budget is $500,000. And then the agency, their job is to go spend the budget. Obviously, their job is to spend at the best rate and get the best results on it, but they want to spend the money. So it's not as if you're running your own company and you're trying to be lean as possible and you're like, if I don't have to spend the money, if I don't find a deal that I don't like, I won't spend it. These agencies have a job to spend the money. Now, on the flip side, as a creator, when you're working with these agencies, you have to give them a cut of what you're working with. The standard rate is normally 20%. That could be meaningful, that could be not meaningful, depending on how many deals you have, depending on how big the deal is, depending on how you value the money. Most of y'all are not busy enough, especially not as creators, to have your own agency that you're working with. A lot of these agencies won't really work with you also until you have a little bit of depth to your content. If you're someone who's really busy putting out a ton of content and just don't want to deal with that shit, that might be the move for you. I actually like building up the relationships with the companies. I like being in control of that. I like being in the negotiations, all that kind of stuff. This is a middleman, which again, a middleman could be great for you. I know one of my really good friends, Brett Coleman, is a very big football channel on YouTube. He works with an agency and they literally fill out his advertising for like 6 months, a year calendar. So he's set to go. He doesn't have to negotiate. He just gets the money, does the advertisement, gets paid. It's all good. Pays them 20%, life goes on. Now, what agencies don't typically do for you, and this is another mistake that a lot of creators make, especially as you're getting bigger and gaining more leverage, is not getting creative with the way that they are paying you. As you saw from some of the screenshots of the contracts that I threw up in the beginning of the video and some of the ways that we were getting paid, deals can get funky, man. Again, you're dealing with one human, one or two humans that are writing the contract on the other side. Deals that we have signed, we have gotten equity in not one, but 2 different companies we've worked with. We've gotten paid in straight cash. We've done percentages of what the customer spends on their website. We've done flat CPAs, cost per acquisition, getting paid for every person that comes onto the platform. We've done a combination of all of the above. Money up front, money on the back end, half and half, monthly payments, weekly payments. There have been deals with bonuses tied in. There have been deals with travel budget tied in. With anything you could really think of, it's all possible. I promise you, because I've done it all. Now, the early deals are likely not going to be like this because you don't have leverage. Once you've built out leverage, maybe that second contract you get with the company could have something like this. A lot of the times you're not going to get a big contract up front. They're not going to give you a fat payment. They're not going to say we're going to lock you up for a year. They're usually going to do some sort of, let's do one plug this month, see how it goes. We can do a 3-month deal after that, a 6-month deal after that. If you crush it, if you go 51-49 in favor of them, they will come back and continue to advertise with you, as they should. They shouldn't be paying you money if you don't deserve it, if you are not good at converting for them. But as you continue to get more and more and more, you can get as creative as you want with these contracts, with how they're going to pay you, with all of that stuff. The more you can tie in what they're giving you being beneficial for them as well, the better off you're going to do. Like, we might negotiate in a nice travel budget from Underdog Fantasy that gets put into the payment, take us to this game or that game, like fly us out to California for this football game, and we'll make sure we make content around Underdog, but also the game. You know, it's things that work for both parties. And the more aligned those types of brands are with your brand, the better off they're going to be. So I would say, go as niche as you can and just crush the shit out of those partnerships. If you could line up brands or sponsors within whatever space you're working in, that's usually how you're going to end up with long-lasting, high upside relationships. You think about it, a lot of the times a company makes a product and they don't know how to distribute. But when they find someone like you who's a really good creator for them, it's like, okay, now we don't have to worry about the content. I just want to make a product. We don't have to worry about hiring someone to build out a content arm for us. They just pay the content creator to do it. And as long as you do it well, they're like, this is priceless to me. And if the product or service is directly connected to your audience or your topic or your niche, the conversion rate and the interest will be 1,000,000 times higher from your audience. Like, it's cool to work with big companies. And like, if you have a really big name, you know, you might get a deal with a larger than life type company and get a random huge check. But more often than not, I'm assuming that doesn't apply to anyone I'm speaking to right now. So focus on getting really high quality deals. They don't need to be high volume in order for them to be really fruitful. So as I said, I have a lot of experience doing these types of brand deals. I hope this was helpful. I made a video last week, 10 general life lessons I've learned from doing YouTube for 10 years. Some of them are financial related, some of them are business, whatever related. You can go watch that video next on the channel. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll be back trying to create full-time creators. No matter how small you are, no matter how big you are, no matter how much you don't want a smoochie for me, you're going to get it. Nothing you could do about it.